Okay, welcome to video number 35 of the Diaries of a Coronavirologist YouTube channel. Today is the 9th of September and we are almost up to 27.7 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 around the world and very nearly at 900,000 confirmed deaths. So today I want to talk a little bit about the fact that AstraZeneca have had to put on hold their clinical trial for their vaccine candidates to prevent SARS2 coronavirus infection and COVID-19. This was something that came to light yesterday. So this is obviously a blow, and it's not something we want to be seeing, that vaccine candidates are being put on hold, but it's also not uncommon for clinical trials to be paused like this. A safety issue seems to have arisen, and now it's being assessed. They are pausing, giving more doses of this vaccine while it's being worked out what's going on and whether this is something directly to do with the vaccine. What it shows is why we can't rush this process of getting vaccines to be approved. We can't have these vaccines ready at a certain convenient time. We need to go through all the proper procedures to assess their efficacy and their safety, and that's being done. So while everyone since the start of this has been saying a vaccine could be ready within 12 months to 18 months, this will be the fastest vaccine ever produced. And yet we still need that length of time. We can't make this vaccine available at whatever date is convenient. So this pause, this hold, is a good indication of why. Ultimately, the worst thing that we could do is put out a vaccine that isn't properly safe, start giving it to everyone, and then cause more severe diseases, more widespread problems, and erode any trust in any further vaccines. Right now, there's a total of 9 vaccine candidates around the world in phase 3 level trials. So if one of these fails because it turns out not to be safe, we've got 8 others coming up that could be safe and could work. So if we rush ones out too soon, get them into people too soon and start to find out they're really unsafe, people aren't going to be confident in taking ones that are safe, or going to lose confidence potentially in taking ones that are safe. So really doing these trials properly and assessing safety and efficacy is very important. So the AstraZeneca vaccine candidate that is involved with this news and this clinical trial is the vaccine candidate that's being produced in collaboration with the University of Oxford that I've talked about a few times on the channel. So this is the chimp adenovirus vaccine candidate, so the ChAdOx for chimp adenovirus Oxford. I won't go into the details of how the vaccine is designed to work because I've talked about it multiple times. I'll link down to previous videos in the description for this video, so you can go back and look at those if you haven't seen them before. The candidate is in its phase 3 aspect, or phase 2/3 part of its trials, and currently they're working to enroll 30,000 people in the UK at 80 different sites. So this is the ongoing thing that's being paused. AstraZeneca are also looking to enroll about 30,000 people in the United States as well at around 60 different sites, as well as doing smaller trials in Brazil and South Africa. So all of this is being put on hold while this case that I'm about to describe is being looked at. This is one of 9 candidate vaccines around the world that are in similar levels of trial. And there's a few vaccines, I think 2 in China and 1 in Russia, that are in this part of clinical trials, but have also been given approval. And I've talked about it on the channel before, but I think this is an unfortunate thing to do, and I think people shouldn't be rushing to approve things while trials are still going on. And the fact that Astra have had to pause this trial because of a potential adverse event linked to the vaccine indicates why we have to do these phase 3 large-scale clinical trials before we can give approvals. So some of the details are still lacking, but it appears that this adverse event has occurred in the UK in a woman who received the vaccine. So they were in the trial and they did receive the vaccine injection, not the placebo injection, and has developed a case of transverse myelitis, which is an inflammation of the spinal cord. Now, this is a somewhat rare condition. In the US, the numbers that I found were that it occurs at a rate of 1.34 to 4.6 cases per million people. So it's rare, but it does occur. And it seems that about 60% of cases are idiopathic, so there's no known cause. But interestingly, viral infections can cause cases of transverse myelitis. So herpes viruses and HIV have been linked to cases of transverse myelitis, for example. So at this stage, it's unclear whether this woman who's developed TM, and it's been reported, I should say, that she's expected to recover, she's just being assessed and things look fine. But it's unclear whether the vaccine caused this. It could have just been a spontaneous case of transverse myelitis that is completely unassociated with the vaccine. However, the trial has been put on hold in order for an independent committee to review the case and work out if there's any evidence to suggest it's associated with the vaccine. If it's associated with the vaccine, this is a good cause to really reassess and really rethink the levels of whether there need to be more safety trials, whether this candidate should be binned, or what the next steps are. Right now, it's unclear how long this review process will take and what exactly the next steps will be. Interestingly, it also seems that this is the second time that the AstraZeneca trial has had to be put on hold. I read in an article that there was also a case of someone developing multiple sclerosis who was part of the clinical trial. However, this was deemed to not be associated with the vaccine. So it's possible that this case of transverse myelitis could be similar. And interestingly, though, it seems like transverse myelitis is more common in people who develop MS. So either they've just got really unlucky with the people they've enrolled in this case, or maybe there's some link. And this is all the kind of things that this review committee are going to have to look into. And that's really all I can say on it right now. Details are still a little bit scant. There's going to be this independent review, and once that's done, we'll know where things stand. But this really illustrates why we need these safety trials. As I said at the top of the video, we don't want to put out a vaccine that's going to cause severe issues and things that may be more severe than COVID itself is. I don't know or necessarily think that transverse myelitis could be worse than COVID, but just as an example, we don't want to make something that is worse or exacerbate symptoms or anything like that. But just before I close out the video, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the approval process that's been sort of laid out, at least by the FDA, as far as I've been able to pick up. Because obviously there's a lot of talk right now about when vaccines are going to be approved and whether we can get them approved before the end of the year, with dates such as October being laid out to get them in before the election. So the FDA have said that any vaccine for preventing COVID needs to show at least 50% efficacy over placebo controls. So you need cases occurring in the community to have people in the placebo arm developing COVID-19 and then finding if the people who receive the vaccine do not develop, and there needs to be this 50% efficacy shown. So if 50 people in your placebo arm develop COVID-19 out of however many, you need under 25 people developing it in the placebo arm for the FDA to give any level of approval to this vaccine candidate. Now, why there is talk at the minute about earlier approvals, and not just from governmental agencies and things like that, but also from the companies involved with this, is that there are interim assessments of these vaccine candidates to look at the efficacy, and there are interim reports put out. So before you get your full 30,000 people and you do all of the follow-up assessments and long-term studies of them, there will be interim reports put out. So I just use 50 cases as my example a second ago. And what Pfizer have said they'll do, so Pfizer, who are developing a vaccine in collaboration with BioNTech, this is an mRNA vaccine I've not talked about on the channel before, but very similar strategy to what Moderna are doing. Pfizer have said that they are going to put out an interim report at 32 cases. So when there are 32 cases, they're going to put out an interim report, which they speculate could be by mid-October. Moderna, who are one of the other leading candidates for producing a vaccine here in the United States that could be distributed around the world, who are in their phase 3 trials, have said that they will put out their interim report when they hit 53 cases. So again, these kind of case counts could easily be occurring by October and November, and based on the amount of spread that's occurring in place in the US, it could potentially be even sooner. The problem is this all just seems far too rushed to give clear and knowledgeable approval in the way I look at it. Let's say that you inject 53 people with a placebo and all of them go to the Sturgis motorcycle rally, or all of them went to it and all of them got sick, then of course your placebo arm versus your vaccine arm looks 100% effective. But that's not statistically powerful. And also it's not long enough to really assess whether this is safe. So I think it would be risky to put something out or to approve something so early. Some adverse events could take 4 to 6 months to develop. We need time to assess if anything is going to actually develop over time. So if a vaccine gets approval in October and it was only being administered in, let's say, July, that may not be long enough to know that it's not causing any adverse events and therefore know whether or not it's safe. So I really don't want things to be rushed. I have no say beyond the words I'm speaking now. I can't talk to anyone about this stuff, but this is why people are preaching caution and why we need time to assess these things, why 2021 is the more likely time to get these vaccine candidates to be approved, because by then we'll have had the time to work out if they're safe and to have a better idea of whether they're working. Ultimately, I just hope that the companies don't bow to political pressure on this. And this week it's been put out statements from 9 leading companies that they will follow the science. So these interim reports are always put out. This isn't something new that's being done here. So we hopefully will see these interim reports. Hopefully they'll be promising. I have no doubt I'll talk about them on the channel when they come out. But just because we get some promising data by October, November, December kind of time, it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be at a stage where we can safely approve a vaccine. Both Pfizer and Moderna are in their phase 3 trials. They're recruiting similarly 30,000 people in various places in the United States and in various other countries, recruiting people to assess their vaccine like Astra. And we will get there with a vaccine, but we can't rush it, and it can't be put out at what is a convenient date. And I think the AstraZeneca case here, putting a trial on hold because of a potential adverse event, is a great example of why we can't and shouldn't rush this. So anyway, that was just a few of my thoughts on what's going on, because obviously this is a big day for news on vaccines, I guess, this week and ongoing over the next few months. There's going to be a lot of talk about vaccines. I just wanted to put a few thoughts out there in this diaries form of the YouTube channel I'm doing. Anyway, with all those things said, I'd like to say thank you for watching. If you found the video useful and interesting, please drop a like on the YouTube metrics and remember to subscribe if you're new around here. Feel free to leave comments and questions down below and I'll do my best to get back to them and potentially incorporate questions into future videos if I think they're good for discussion to a broader audience than just back and forth in the comments section. Feel free as well to follow me on Twitter, as I'm a little bit more engaged there than I am on the YouTube channel sometimes. I put a link to my handle down in the description for the video. And as always, please share these videos with anyone who you think might find them interesting. Anyway, please stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, and keep calm and carry on. We will get through this pandemic, and we will get a vaccine approved that is safe. I'm sure of it.